Greetings, friends. You're on the War Reporter channel. There's been a huge amount of developments today, so let's get started. Let's start with the SUDZHA ledge as we see in the direction of SUDZHA. Then, as you can see, over the past night there have been additional changes on the map in favor of Russia. Let's compare the map between the dates. For example, this was the situation by the end of March 10. I think it's better to start earlier. Here's the situation by the end of March 8, when by the end of the day the Russians started their Spartan offensive operation, their special operation, when they moved through the 15-kilometer tube and landed behind the Ukrainian positions. This was the situation by the end of March 9. As you can see, the Russians managed to improve their position considerably. We didn't have much geolocation data, so most of the territories were marked as disputed. By the end of 10 March we had more or less reliable information from various reliable sources about the situation on the ground. This allowed us to completely change the map in Russia's favor, and most of the territories, as you can see, were already marked as being under full Russian control. By early March 11, we continued to receive information about additional progress on the ground. By the morning of March 11, the Russians had succeeded in establishing full control of a village called SUDZHA. This is the last village north of the settlement, north of the SUDZHA agglomeration. Now, if the Russians continue to move further south, we will see the first battle for SUDZHA itself. The report of the fall of SUDZHA was released by the official channel telegram of Troop Group North. They announced it on the morning of March 11, 2025. In addition, by the evening of March 10, 2025, the Russians reported full control of a settlement called Kalmykov and Bandarenka, meaning that all settlements and villages on the eastern flank of the SUDZHA agglomeration are now under Russian control. In addition, several other reports from various sources connected to either Troop Group North or soldiers on the ground were published the night before. According to them, the Russians have intensified their actions on the southern flank of the SUDZHA agglomeration. Over the past night, the Russians managed to significantly improve their position in the area of a settlement called Kurilovka. According to several pro-Russian sources, the Russians are about to finish clearing the village of Melovaya and the nearby forest. To summarize all of the above, today the Russians will take full control of all territories inside this red line. But, in truth, it no longer matters whether the Russians are conducting this or that offensive operation, this or that maneuver. Obviously, we realize that Putin wants to take this strong card from Zelensky's hands and restore control over the SUDZHA direction. According to Zelensky's original plan, announced several months ago, he stated that he wanted to exchange these territories for some territories already captured by the Russians. We believe that Zelensky intended to exchange SUDZHA and the SUDZHA region, for example, for the territory of the city of Energodar with the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. For Ukraine, it is very important to maintain control over the largest nuclear power station in Europe. But now it's clear that Zelensky will no longer be able to do this. More and more sources are reporting that the Ukrainians have stopped listening to their commanders and continue the retreat toward the border. The Russians are inflicting significant damage on the Ukrainian forces. Hundreds of drones are flying along the main supply and evacuation roads, causing the Ukrainians to suffer significant losses. Most importantly, on the morning of the 11th of March, 2025, the Russians began bombing and attacking the SUDZHA agglomeration with everything they have. This means that most likely, today the Russians will try to break through the Ukrainian defense belt once again, defeat the Ukrainians completely, and force them to flee from the SUDZHA agglomeration. There is a very high chance that by the end of the 11th of March or by the beginning of the 12th of March, the Ukrainians will abandon their positions in SUDZHA *** completely. As you can see from the current configuration of the line of combat contact, the Russians control every single square kilometer around the city of SUDZHA. If the Ukrainians don't make a decision today, they will likely be caught in a cauldron by the Russians by the morning of the 12th of March. The Russians continue their offensive. Some of the Ukrainians have already managed to evacuate from SUDZHA, but the problem is that they can't use vehicles. They can only evacuate and escape the cauldron on foot. As a result, they are exhausted and very tired by the time they reach the settlement of Unikivka. Now the Ukrainian commanders in this area face another problem. They need to figure out how to manage these soldiers, how to concentrate them, and how to provide them with beds and places to sleep so they can get some rest. This situation has led to another problem. The settlement of Unikivka is now overcrowded with Ukrainian soldiers, making it a perfect target for Russian aviation, Iskander missiles, and other attacks. Over the past 24 hours, during the previous night, the Russians bombed and attacked different positions in Unikivka *, where the Ukrainians were trying to concentrate their forces after escaping from SUDZHA and the SUDZHA direction ***. This means that the Ukrainians continue to suffer losses. To stabilize the situation, the Ukrainians are trying to deploy as many air defense systems as possible because they understand that the Russians will first try to attack the retreating Ukrainian forces with aviation and missiles. That's why it's crucial to improve and reinforce their air defense systems to secure the sky and create safe corridors for the Ukrainians who are currently trying to save their lives by fleeing from the territory of SUDZHA. This is why the Russians have intensified their intelligence activities deep inside the Sumy region to locate and destroy Ukrainian air defense systems. In this video, we can see how the Ukrainians were trying to bring an additional Bukem air defense system as close as possible to the line of combat contact. However, this system was discovered by the Russians and destroyed by an Iskander strike. The next few days are going to be much more difficult for the Ukrainians than today, yesterday, or the day before yesterday. These upcoming days are very important because if the Ukrainians are not able to stabilize the situation or reorganize themselves, most likely the Russians, after the fall of SUDZHA, will continue their offensive operation. It's very likely that the Russians will be able to get as close as possible to the city of Sumy. Now Zelensky has several options. First, he could try to send reinforcements towards SUDZHA * to stabilize the situation or concentrate them along the border to prevent the Russians from breaking through. The problem, however, is that since the beginning of the battle for SUDZHA * the Ukrainians have failed to properly prepare their defensive positions and lines in this area. Therefore, even if they send reinforcements, they will not be able to hold their positions for a long time. Another option for the Ukrainians would be to launch a new offensive operation, for example, near the settlement of Tyakino. In this video, we can see how the Ukrainians began bombing and attacking the border and the line of combat contact between the Russians and the Ukrainians with artillery and other weapons. Perhaps, in the very near future, the Ukrainians will try to attack this area, not with the aim of establishing control over Tyakino or breaking through toward the settlement of Glushkova, but simply to slow down the Russians' advance. The Ukrainians hope to force the Russians to introduce additional reserves in this area to stabilize the situation, which would allow the Ukrainians to escape SUDZHA with minimal losses. However, it's unlikely that they will be able to do this because they currently face significant problems with intelligence, missiles, and arms supply. The second strong card that Zelensky holds is not air defense but long-range attacks deep inside Russian territory. For example, today Zelensky is in Saudi Arabia, where he is expected to propose a ceasefire to stop attacks at sea, in the air, and so on. To demonstrate that he holds a strong position, last night, between the 10th and 11th of March, Zelensky ordered an attack on Russian territory, including Moscow, using a significant number of drones. This morning, the Russian Ministry of Defense published a report stating that during the past night, Russian air defense systems intercepted and destroyed 337 Ukrainian drones. This is the largest number of drones used by the Ukrainians since the beginning of the special military operation. This attack sends a clear message from Zelensky. Despite the loss of SUDZHA, Ukraine still holds a strong card, drones. The underlying message is that if Russia wants to establish a ceasefire with Ukraine, the ceasefire must include an agreement to halt drone attacks because Ukraine can strike back effectively. However, it's unlikely that the Russians will accept this proposal. They will likely continue their operations until the Ukrainians agree to meet all of Russia's demands. Furthermore, during the previous nights, the Russians attacked the city of Odessa, where the Ukrainians are believed to have production facilities for these drones. Regarding the attack on Moscow, these 300 drones caused significant damage, mainly to civilian infrastructure. Numerous cars and civilian buildings were damaged or destroyed. There were no reports of damage to military targets. The Ukrainians seem to have intentionally targeted civilian objects to provoke a reaction from the Russian population. The goal appears to be to prompt Russian civilians to post videos online, increasing the psychological impact of the drone attack on Russia's civilian infrastructure. This is the strong bargaining position that Zelensky hopes to use during his meeting in Saudi Arabia. In any case, today's developments will reveal a lot. However, it's unlikely that the outcome of this meeting will be in Ukraine's favor, especially considering the critical situation in the SUDZHA direction ***. Let's move further and discuss additional updates from other directions. According to defense sources, the Ukrainians have continued their counteroffensive operation in the northern Kupiansk direction. This information was confirmed by Neil Mappers. While no significant changes have been reported, Neil Mappers confirmed the details that had already been published yesterday by pro-***Ukrainian sources. In the Toretsk direction, the Russians continue their counteroffensive operation. Currently, there are intense clashes in the Zabalka district. The Russian forces have published a video showing them counterattacking in this area and forcing the Ukrainians to retreat. It appears that after the collapse of Russian defenses in this area, the Russians have managed to stabilize the situation. Now they are working to restore control over the territories they lost during the Ukrainian counteroffensive. In the Pokrovsk direction, over the past 24 hours, reports have continued to come in from the territory of Shevchenka. Intense clashes are ongoing, and the current map configuration appears to be inaccurate. We believe that Shevchenka is currently a contested, gray zone. Every day, new videos emerge from different parts of the settlement, confirming that the situation remains fluid. In some cases, it seems that even the Russians and the Ukrainians are unsure which buildings are under whose control. The clashes in this area continue, resembling the situation in Toretsk, where the Russians are working to stabilize the front and force the Ukrainians to retreat from the territory. That's it for this update. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel, like the video, and have a good day.